So whenever you're first using HardOps, pressing Q and bringing up certain operations like sharpen, you'll see display a notification at the bottom center of the screen. Other operations are, for example, clean mesh. We see that it'll display information pertaining to the operation at hand. However, there is a degree of customization that can also be done with notifications. So if we were to press Control K, we could actually bring up our HardOps preferences where we can jump over to the UI tab, and if we expand on the operator options, I want to talk about operator background and operator border. So background, we'll put a background on a notification, and border, will put a border on a notification. So if we press Q and we press sharpen, we see that we now have a nice little border in addition to a shaded background. However, whenever you're using Boxcutter, you'll see that Boxcutter doesn't actually have any sort of information display because it isn't pertinent to the operation at hand. However, because of the success with the operation notification system inside of HardOps, we did add a toggle where underneath your hops drop down and under the opt-ins, you can turn on Boxcutter notifications. And when you turn on Boxcutter notifications, you can choose if you want your drawing to show up in meters, centimeters, millimeters, inches, and so forth. For us, we'll be setting ours to just meters. And if I begin clicking and dragging, we see that there's now a notification display on screen anytime that I begin performing an operation. In fact, I can begin extruding, it'll notify us of extrude. I can press tab, pause it, press X and change it to a slice. It'll notify us that we're slicing. Press X again, we're now intersecting. Press X again, we're now insetting. However, due to the complexity of this, insetting isn't going to work out so well. So pressing X again, we're back over to cut, and that is the simple Boxcutter notification in action. However, if we were to click on the hops drop down and we click on this button on the far end, we can also get extra Boxcutter notifications, and this means that during draw, we now have additional information. For example, we now have information talking about our orientation. We're currently oriented to the object. We're currently working in local. We're currently doing a non-destructive cut operation, and there's actually one modifier in place on this model. So if we click and apply, that means that whenever we click and drag, it says that there's one modifier, but the moment that we perform the extrusion, we can now see that there's now two modifiers because the modifier doesn't actually get added until we perform the extrusion process. Another thing showing in this notification is the fast under Alt-E. So if I were to press tab and pause this, I could press Alt-E and we could change our solver from fast to exact on the fly. I find it's important to know what solver you're using because if you're using exact without being aware, you could experience unnecessary slowdown. And sometimes with fast, you could be going for a certain type of operation that might be more optimal for exact, but without being aware, you will be in for a bad time. So just letting you know that there's an option to have the classic simpler notification, but there's also an option to have more information showing on the notification for this update. Another thing is in my videos, you might notice that my notifications have a hint of pink when it comes to them. Underneath the hops drop down, you can change the modal background color to pretty much any color you want. I always choose something a little subdued just for a relaxing experience whenever I'm using Boxcutter. Sometimes I'll go with something a little blue, but generally with this particular computer, I opt to pink just because it just has a little bit more vibrancy to it. But just letting you know that just on the fly, you can always just go in and change your color just on the fly by going under the hops drop down to go for that particular mood. In fact, as I look at it, I wonder what if it had the color change according to the particular operation that you're performing inside of Boxcutter. But you know what, that's a talk for another day.